Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the 2024 Active Learning Network CPD series on the theme of digitally enhanced active learning. So I will share some details of the session today in a couple of minutes, but first just to introduce our digitally enhanced active learning badges, which will be available for each session. So there's three types of badge. There's the attendee badge, which everybody who is actually attending this meeting today will be eligible for. So what will happen is towards the end of the session, we'll share a link to feedback in the chat. When you complete the feedback and send it back, that then makes you eligible for an attendee badge. Now, what we then have to do is we have to collect all the email addresses and put them into the badge software and make the badges so they don't happen automatically. There will be a short delay, but they should arrive shortly after the session, as in within a few days. The second one is the facilitator badge, and all of you who are facilitators today or for the series, again, we will be putting your details into the software and you will get a facilitator badge. And the third one is a champion badge, and the champion badge is a longer term CPD project. And the final session in this series, which will be run by Isabel, will actually explain the champion badge in more detail and it will support it. But we've just got a little bit of details on it now. So basically the learning outcome for this series is to design a learning session or resource using your selection from the active learning ideas presented in any of the three events. So what you need to do is to earn this badge is what you'll do after all of the sessions, and the final session is you'll go away, you'll create some sort of artifact that might be a blog post, a podcast episode, a video. You might run a workshop for your institution. You might run a workshop for the Active Learning Network, anything you can do, absolutely anything you want to do to show that you've done a bit of learning from the series. And then what you do is you will submit that artifact by email to us, and we will give a date for that, which will be plenty of time away. And then once you've submitted the artifact and we've had a look at it, then we'll give you a champion's badge. So very exciting, especially for everybody who loves badges. Okay, so on to today. Today we have three presenters on the theme of active assessment. First, we have Mark Wilsher. Second, we have Priyank Shukla. And thirdly, we have Anthony Basil. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop screen sharing. I'm going to advise you that I hope you all enjoy the session. I can't work out how to stop screen sharing, so there you go. Stop share. There you go. I'm going to hand over to Mark, who should have co-host abilities, and welcome, Mark.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for being here. We've got a nice, easy, fun cat-related activity to start off on this very drizzly day where I am. I'm the Educational Development Coordinator at Norwich University of the Arts, and I'm also course leader for MA Creative Education and our PGCHE. So that means I do a lot of teaching of pedagogy to our faculty. And for most of them, it's the first time they've come across it. So it's, you know, what it can be like any educational developers out there, it can be a little bit kind of dry and abstract to a lot of practitioners and lecturers. So I do my best to make it interesting. I do my best to make it fun and useful to them and always active. Also, I think that there's kind of responsibility to model best practice in the teaching that I do. And I do a lot of digital teaching, online teaching. In fact, almost all of my teaching is online at the moment. And so we use various tools and strategies to make this work. And this is what I'm going to share with you today. This is a session which I have run a few times. It's just a short little exercise. And the idea is to get across the idea of how the approach that you take to assessment influences the outcome of assessment, essentially. So the really big picture idea. And we do this using the software Miro, which lots of you might have known before. I wonder, could you just put your hand up if you know or have used Miro before? It's an online whiteboarding software. Cool. Various real hands, physical hands, digital hands. Great. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a mini intro to this too. I can see lots of little digital thumbs ups coming up. Brilliant. Okay, and also lots that haven't. So I would urge you to have a go at this without wanting to be a salesman for Miro. As an institution, really gone for it, and we use it a lot in our sort of staff projects as well as with students. So it happens all over the place. So now I'm going to give you a quick look at what we have. Okay, sharing, here we go. So this is what Miro looks like. It's an interactive whiteboard of infinite scale, infinite size. You or some of you are going to be using this now for this exercise. To navigate around it, if you are using a mouse, you just simply hold the right button down and move around. If you're using a trackpad, you just use 2 fingers. On a trackpad, you can zoom in and out with a pinch or expand. And if you're using a mouse, you can use either a scroll wheel if you have one, or if you look down the bottom right-hand side of my screen here, which I'm sharing with you, you can see a little scroll tool down there. You'll also see on the left-hand side a toolbar. Now, today you're not really going to be using any tools apart from the pointer, which is at the top. There's a massive selection of tools in Miro. So we use this pretty extensively. Now, I would now like to ask for, there's quite a lot of us here, there's 35 of us here. I'm not going to give everyone a go at this, but can I ask for some volunteers, please, to take part? And I'm looking for 12 volunteers to take part in the assessing of our furry feline friends today. So I think if you just want to put up your digital hand, that would be a great way to do that. And I can make a note of a few names. Okay. So I'm just going to making a note of a few names here. Okay, I only seem to have 2 volunteers so far, but I'll take those 2. Let's start with Jim and Elizabetta. Okay, so Jim and Elizabetta, you are going to be assessing according to norm reference grading, this lovely selection of cats. And you're going to do it using Miro. So what I need to do is, oh, excuse me, I'm just going to share this board with you. Sharing super easy in Miro. Copy that board link. I'm just going to put that into the chat. So if you look at the chat now, you'll find a link. You click on that, Jim and Elizabetta, you will find yourself on the Miro board. Yes, I can see you're there. Brilliant. Now you have, I can see 1, I can see 2. Brilliant. So you're in group A, this purple board. Now using your skill and judgment, I would like you, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to sort these cats in order of cuteness. Off you go. You should be able to pick them up and drag them and move them around and put them in order of cuteness.
So, Mark, there's a couple more people in chat saying they want to.
Oh, brilliant.
Rachel
Great.
and Rachel Fossey and Roberta Schleur have both said they'd like to do it.
Excellent. Thanks. So you can see a timer on the screen counting down. I started using cats because my dean was very fond of cats. And well, it seems like everyone loves cats. When I would normally do this in a teaching situation, that's right, the grumpy cats are at the bottom, always. I would typically use breakout rooms, and I'd put people into groups of 5 or 6, and they would have sort of 10 minutes or so to chat and converse while they do that. So I've just had to adapt that for today. Great, looks like we're looking towards a kind of spectrum here of cute cats. So some of you will be looking at Miro through me sharing my screen, and others will be, if you follow that link, you can just go straight to the board using your browser. But only start messing around with it when I invite you, if that's okay. Right, time's nearly up. Should get a funny noise. Great, thank you. Thank you, brilliant. So we can look clearly. Thank you, Elizabeth and Jim. Done a great job. We had a whole bunch of cute little cats up the top, some nice faces. Oh, some proud, majestic felines working towards the grumpy boots at the bottom. Brilliant. So let's see how this works out if we use a different form of assessment. So I'm going to move over to the second rectangle here. We have a green rectangle, group B, and I'm going to ask Roberta and Rachel to now have a go at assessing these cats, but this is criterion reference grading. So I'd like you to sort them according to how closely they resemble this photo, this beautiful photo of a sweet looking cat. And again, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do this. So you can see this is a really kind of big picture activity. I'm a big believer in trying to get across sort of the big, broad concepts in relation to learning and teaching. And the best way to do that is usually to try them out and to see how things pan out in use, I think. I think this is a tricky exercise because none of these photos are exactly like that photo. So you just have to use your skill and judgment. So I was asking about Miro. Yeah, Miro, I believe Miro is still free to use for educators. If you have an educational email address, you can get a pretty full featured version of this. You can buy a fuller license, which gives you some different features, I think. Great, looks like we've kind of hit a scale. Roberta and Rachel, are you happy with what you've got here? Pretty much. I love watching all the arrows whizzing around as well. That's always good fun. Time is up. Okay. Thank you for that. Well done. Now I need 2 more volunteers. I don't know if we have 2 more who'd like to put themselves forwards. Anyone like to volunteer to be the next sorters?
That's Paolo volunteering.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah.
Paolo, and anyone else? Any advance on one?
I'll volunteer as well, Mark.
Brilliant, thank you.
Oh, hang on, no, Rania just volunteered. Take Rania.
Lania, okay. Paolo, Lania, I'm going to put you into pass-fail here. So if you move to group C, this golden rectangle, sort these adorable cat photos into pass or fail. And I'll leave you to interpret. Oh, look at that. The grumpy one goes straight to the bottom.
Rania, do we need any criteria? Happiness, cuteness, is it?
Yeah. This is always interesting discussion we have when we have groups working on this. It's like, okay, what criteria are we using? And we have to kind of devise them as we go. Typically catronormative. The cute ones come to the top. We did have a group once that were assessing the quality of the photograph, and they started to look at the backgrounds and the lighting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think the yeah, we like the background of the top left.
Yes.
Kind of a lioness type vibe.
Brilliant. Do you want to try and draw a line or make a gap between pass and fail? Let's have a look.
Oh yeah.
I'm guessing that this is kind of the pass or fail line.
Good with that.
Got a marginal fail there. Okay, well done. Time's nearly up. Very good.
Yeah, yep, I think we are done.
Thank you. Fantastic. And then I have a fourth group. If anyone else is interested, I've gone to the ungrading option, where we're not going to grade these, but we just thought we'd write them some feedback. So if anyone would like to write some feedback, I think I might make this a free-for-all. You can just go to the text tool on the left with the big letter T, just like in Photoshop or a lot of other applications, and write some text next to some of these photos and give these feline friends some detailed qualitative feedback on their appearance. And then we'll have a go at comparing the outcomes of these four groups. I've just started following the Facebook page of a cat that sits outside my local branch of Tesco's called Ted the Tesco's Cat. If anyone's interested, I'd recommend you give him a follow. I'm sure there are plenty of people interested in ungrading here with us today. Here's a chance to put it into practice. Excellent, you're all doing really well. Grumpy cat, you are adorable, never change. It's good to see that you do not take life too seriously. This cat looks like mine. These ones need to learn to pose. Yeah, that's true. I've got a few comments here. This is a moody posture, lots of character. Most endearing, yes. This has an outdoor learning vibe. Fantastic. Situated learning, always a good thing. Done very well in choosing your setting. Marvelous. Okay. I think we'll call that a day there. I'm going to cut the timer off, or maybe I'll just let it play out. Feel free to add things. So just to zoom out on this, and then I should be able to, anyone on the browser will now follow me, I think. Here we go. So to zoom out, let's compare. Let's just look at the top and bottom of each of these groups. So at the top, we have the cute little kittens over here in group A. in norm reference grading. At the bottom, the grumpy cats. Here, interestingly, when it came to criterion reference grading, the group of kittens was sort of way in the middle. Well, we did still have a grumpy one down the bottom. And we have this face up the top, which was, yeah, it scored pretty well before. Pass or fail, that the group passed, the grumpies failed. And here, interestingly, the group got quite a bit of solid qualitative feedback there. So I think, hopefully this makes the point that the system you choose, the structure you choose for assessing has a pretty big, but not, well, some pretty big impact on outcomes. And yet sometimes there are consistencies and sometimes there are similarities between the outcomes between these different systems. But more than that, I hope you've enjoyed using Miro today. That is me done. Happy to answer any questions.
That was fantastic, Mark. We do have a couple of minutes left, so if anybody would like to take the mic and say how they found the activity, please do.
So there's a question in the chat from Annabelle, which is, can you use Miro to develop collaborative mind maps?
Absolutely, yeah, you can. We have, actually, do you know what? I might, if I do have a bit of time, I'll just show you some of the stuff that we've done on Miro without going too overboard. You can do a lot with it. We use it where that comes with like an absolute plethora of templates, a lot of mind mapping and sort of business related structures, but it also can be totally free form. And like I mentioned, it is also of infinite size. So we tend to use it as well as with teaching. People have been using it for reflective journals, for production notebooks and diaries, for filmmaking, for comments on group work and shared work and so on. But we also use it a lot for project management within our own faculty. So here's a board which we used for an upgrading of our Moodle project. So we're upgrading Moodle a couple of years ago, and you can see that this board got pretty extensive and detailed. And we had 2 teams collaborating on this board. So you get a whole zoom out and you can use all sorts of things. You can import, you can use images, you can import Trello and Jira cards and interactive multimedia elements and so on. So yeah, it's a really fantastic tool. And we particularly like it because as a sort of creative arts university, we use a lot of visual material. So we're always finding good ways to handle visuals. You can turn the cursors off. Someone's asking about the cursors being distracting. You can turn off those in your view, no problem.
Have you tried using it in the classroom? Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we also do a lot of mixed sort of hybrid stuff. We might be physically in the classroom, but we'll have a QR code up on the wall, and people can just post their work or post research, perhaps if they're creating like a kind of a shared interactive research resource, put things up like that. Yeah, it works really well.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Mark. So I think we're going to start to sort of do the handover to Priyank now. So Priyank wants to start to get ready. Mark, there is one other question in the chat, which is about how else you could use Miro.
Yeah.
Yes, it's possibly maybe, unless you've got a quick answer it in the chat.
You can use it in any way that you might use a normal whiteboard or even a wall. So you could, for instance, have something locked down on the board and ask people to stick post-it notes on it, and people can just stick virtual post-it notes on it or vote on it or something like that. So anything from the really simple to the really super complicated.
Thank you. So I think what we all want to do is give Mark a huge virtual round of applause for doing a whistle-stop activity like that. And what I'm really appreciative is Mark normally takes about an hour to do this activity, and he's condensed it down just to give us an idea of how it might work. So thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
And there is another question from Paolo, which I will ask you to answer in the chat about how it compares to Padlet. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Priyank, and Priyank Shukla is going to talk to us and give us an activity about active learning via a two-stage assessment approach. So over to you, Priyank.
Thank you, Sarah. I hope I'm audible, just to check. Perfect. And I will share my screen.
You're a little bit quiet for me. I can hear you, but slightly quieter than Mark was.
Okay, how about now? Can you
That's
hear me?
better. Thank you.
Perfect. So, so I'm trying to share my screen. If you can confirm you're able to see it. Has it come through?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you so much again, Sarah. So I would give a little bit of context about where do I come from before I start talking about this. So my first degree was in biotechnology, and then I studied bioinformatics in my master's. That's why I started picking how to learn code, how to program. And then during my PhD, which was in computer science, I further sort of improved my programming knowledge and experience. Now here in the School of Medicine at Ulster University, I teach programming to personalized medicine students. And these are undergraduate students, so BSc honors in personalized medicine. And it is a multidisciplinary program, and we teach a lot of different subjects, ranging from biological sciences to statistics, programming, mathematics. And in a way, it is like quite challenging for the students. I sort of criticize in a positive way that we are trying to create super graduates, who should be able to do everything and almost anything in the context of life and health sciences. So they should be able to do the lab experiment and not only generate data, but should be able to analyze data and analyze not just with Microsoft Excel or SPSS, but actually should be able to code, write programs. Now, most of these students, despite we try to keep it open for both life and health sciences and physical sciences, most of our students still come from a biology or life and health sciences background, and which makes their life a bit difficult in terms of learning the programming aspects of this course. And every semester we teach one programming language and keep on improving to the next semester as well. And this is like the feedback, what you see in this slide is like very normal. Every year I see that everyone says that it's very challenging. It stresses me, feels anxious, and most of them almost saying not interested in a career in the health data science. And therefore, not only me, but every academic member of staff here try their best to teach in a way which helps their learning experience and motivates them. So in that space, I tried to run a study where I wanted to measure the indicators of success of a two-stage assessment approach and see if it can actually improve the learning experience and outcome of those students who are trying to learn computer programming from a cross-disciplinary perspective. So what is this two-stage assessment approach? This is nothing novel. I mean, it exists. People have applied before. But in this context, I would like to explain what it means. So during the assessment, students first take the assessment as an individual, and it is weighted as the 90% of the marks. Then followed by that, their individual attempt. Soon after that, on the same day, they do the same attempt test, exactly the same assessment in a group. And for obvious reasons, the weightage of that is less, 10%. And the students are awarded marks, whatever is best, either their individual attempt or individual plus group, which is 90% of individual and 10% of the group attempt. So whatever in that is maximum, that's the marks what they get. And the whole idea here is actually to trigger discussion about the understanding of the problems, which are computing problems, which they need to first design a flowchart, how they are going to solve the problem, and then write the actual piece of code. So soon after their individual attempt, it gives them a good opportunity to discuss, debate about the problem, about the multiple solutions, because different people might have approached a problem in a different way. And given that it is happening on the same day, the group attempt and the individual, the memory is fresh in terms of what they have just done as an individual. So it helps in a way in peer learning and collaborative learning. So that was the idea of running this particular study. Now, what we found here is that in terms of their free text responses, and here are a few examples which when we ask them, what do you think about computer programming? We can broadly sort of divide them in terms of affective response and cognitive response. So affective here is basically when they are just talking about that they are feeling anxious and difficult and stressful, but without any sort of discussion around or comment around the cognitive nature of the learning and why they feel it is difficult and what could be done. So we divided those responses into two groups, affective and cognitive. And here what you see is just few snippets, but then in this spectrum display chart, we are presenting after categorizing all the responses and then figuring out which student is giving us affective and which one is giving cognitive response. We divided them in this chart. And as you can see, each dot here is a student. So I don't see a huge change between before the class test, two-stage assessment and after, but it's just slight improvement. I must say that before the assessment, most of the responses were affective in nature, whereas you see a very slight improvement later after the assessment, and as the module went on, that their response, there's a slight increase in the cognitive responses. So we also found that this approach indicates improvement in the knowledge, skill, and especially the confidence of the students towards their ability to learn programming. And for us, the confidence was really one of the most important key, because at the end of the day, we don't expect those students that all of them will become like a software engineer in the health data science, but the pressure and the sort of worry they had and about how they were going to learn, and so that confidence was really important to improve, and we could clearly see that as we went on through the module. In the final survey, everyone said there is some confidence or good amount of confidence, whereas at the start half of them were saying no confidence at all. Same goes in terms of knowledge and skills. There is slight improvement. I again won't say like huge improvement, but for us the confidence was more important than knowledge and skills, I must say, because at the end of the day, like I said, we don't want everyone, we don't expect everyone to become a software engineer. It's a multidisciplinary course. They might choose their career path in the wet lab side as well. So the other thing was overall learning experience. And again, we saw improvement in that as well, from 57% to roughly 80%, where as the module progressed, their opinion was that as an overall, their learning experience about learning programming has improved. And in terms of the future career direction, for me personally, it was a very positive sort of outcome, although not very significant in terms of the stats or numbers here. But as you can see on the right hand side of these figures, none of the students wanted to make a career in computational desk-based or data science side of the personalized medicine, which gradually improved to 8% and then to 17%. So I appreciate that this is not like a huge sort of improvement, but still seeing that at least few of them because most of them don't really come from a computing background. So despite that, seeing some of them interested in picking up a career in the health data science was really very positive for me on a personal note. And also in terms of future career direction, initially most of them wanted to go for higher studies, master's and PhD, but as the module progressed and probably as they realized the importance of the key skills they are learning here, they shifted towards that they want to go to industry soon after finishing their degree. So again, this was also something very positive for me, even though not very significant change we can see here, but still a positive indicator, I must say. So I would like to straight away say that there is a huge limitation in this study because our sample size is very, very small, given the cohort size is so small, and this is the first time I ran the study. So my plan is to keep on repeating the study for a couple of years, because no matter what, our sample size is small. It usually ranges between 20 and 30 students every year. So it will take some time to get some good sample size where we can properly do some proper statistics before we can make any strong conclusions about it. But as the aim of this study said, it was really to see the indicators rather than to prove anything in here. So this was something I did earlier this year, and a small study, and which I'm happy to share here. So thank you very much. That was all, to be honest, in terms of what I did earlier this semester and wanted to share with you all. Happy to take any questions and clarify anything what I've presented here. Thank you.
Thanks, Priyank. That was really interesting. So we've got a few people asking, would it be possible to get a copy of your slides afterwards?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to share, no problem.
So if you could send them through to me, Priyank, then I'll make sure.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody would like to put their hand up or talk in chat or just take the mic, that would be absolutely fine. Good question. So Alexander is asking, could you summarize how the group work component of the exam worked?
Yeah, sure. So in the morning, let's say when they came to the class around 9 o'clock, the first thing they were asked to do was to just sit down separately in the class, like distance width of two seats at least, and just focus on the whole assessment individually, which is an open book, by the way, open book exam assessment, where they are given a health data science problem. And they were asked to first make a flowchart of the solution of the problem, and then translate that flowchart into an actual piece of code in Python. So two components, and you could have multiple solutions of the problem, both in terms of the flowchart and even how do you write the code. And once they are done with that, then we randomly selected 4 or 5 students and put them in a group into 4 different corners of the class. and said, look, now do the same exercise, but together, and it will be just one response from the whole group. And what you could see in the class is like they're just buzzing with discussion and sort of arguing with each other. No, I think this is how it should be done, and I think this is the right solution. This is how I did it, and and then in that discussion, somebody saying, "Oh, I missed that point," and "Oh, so it's like soon after the memory, because it's so fresh, they're able to figure out their mistakes. They're able to figure out, oh, this is not the only solution. I could have done it in this way also, or that way also. And yeah, I mean, then once they are done, we mark them, and for the obvious reason, we keep the group attempt only 10% of the weightage, because otherwise it will sound as if everybody is cheating or something. But that's not the idea here. The idea is really to trigger the discussion and find multiple solutions. So yeah, if a student has scored like more individually than individual plus group, which is 90% individual, 10% group, then the individual attempt is what the marks that person gets. But if it is the other way around, then that's what they get. So it is in the best interest of the student, both in the context of the marks as well as in the context of learning as well, which I personally feel is like a very active way of learning, right on the spot. And so, yeah, if that clarifies in terms of how it was executed.
Thank you. I think that's really helpful. So lots of questions in chat. So Alexander's saying, great, thank you. So yes, that answered his question. The next one is from Roberta, and Roberta's saying, can you adjust the grading? For example, 85% individual and 15% group.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I don't think there is a very hard line here how to adjust. It's really up to you, but probably trying to find that fine balance where somebody who really works hard and studies well should reflect in this overall scoring as that person actually gets the best marks, whereas somebody, if we increase too much weightage of the group, there is a very fair chance that that person will reach almost to the same marks of an individual who was actually working and studying hard. So in order to differentiate those students, that the students who really work should get best, and who don't study, obviously they should score low. I think I personally found 90% and 10% a good balance. But again, like I said, there's no sort of hard and fast rule around that. It's really up to you to improvise where you find the best sweet spot.
Yes, thank you. And Roberta is saying good point, and I think yes, that is a good point. Actually, I also think this leads in really nicely to Vicky's question. And Vicky asked, are there any issues with social loafers that you found?
I would say probably I was fortunate in the sense the cohort size is really small, 20, 30 students. We know everybody like by name. And so there hasn't been as such issues. I mean, you will find one or two sometimes who just would not engage no matter how hard you try. And some of them, one or two of them sometimes are really so bright, they just feel it's just simply waste of their time to participate in the group, because they just feel that they will individually, they have anyhow scored good enough, and they're not going to gain anything. But again, that would be really rare, because it's not like every time we'll get it. In terms of our cohort, but we ran this first time, so I would learn as I go forward in future years how this evolves.
Yes, yeah, you will. And actually, this is now feeding really nicely into Anthony's point. And Anthony's asking, what about students who come in with a good knowledge before the lesson? Will this assessment model recognise their prior knowledge? And I guess the grading might do some of that.
Prior knowledge, meaning the students who who already had a computing background before joining the course. Yeah. I mean, indeed. I mean, it goes the other way around as well, that out of 20 or 30 students, there are only 2 or 3 who actually come from a computing or maths background. And the other way around is like the students, those of them obviously are not bright in the other aspects of the course where it's pure biology. So yeah, I mean, it is a multidisciplinary course, and it's open for really for both side of the physical and life and health sciences. So yeah, they will definitely have an edge, and we have seen one student who, especially with one student, I remember she already had an undergraduation in mathematics, and she was working for some time, and then later on to join this course, and she was excelling, like acing everything in terms of programming. And also, I think that will always be there given the nature of this course is.
Yes, but I guess the main thing is it's inclusive for everybody. Final comment, I think, from Wendy, and Wendy is saying she thinks it would be very, very interesting to see if attitude towards group work changes after this experience. And I don't know if you have any feedback about that, Priyank.
Very good point. The thing is, the group work has been always a part of the whole learning sessions. Even in the class, when we practice the programming exercise in a formative way, the group work is always a part of it. And I would say in the class, there are still 1 or 2 or 3 of them who may not engage with other, and they will just do their own work. But this sort of assessment in a more formalized way, when it is especially summative, sort of forces them to actually participate in a group. So, but I never sort of did any metric to measure whether it is improving or not. And I'm just thinking probably I missed that opportunity because I just always thought that the group assessment is intrinsic to the whole learning process, and it's always there every week. So, but it's a really good point, and maybe I would, going forward, I will try to put some questions in the survey to check if we can see some improvement with this whole process. But because group work is nowadays is more and more important. So yeah, thank you for that point, and we'll try to take it on board going forward.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Priyank, for an absolutely fascinating session. As I say, if you share the slides with us afterwards, then we'll make sure that we get them shared around. It's 5 to 11 now. So I think what we need to do is give Priyank a huge virtual round of applause. And what we will do is start to hand over to Anthony. So Anthony is saying that there is a pre-talk activity. He's put the link in the chat. So if any of you would like to go and have a look quickly at his activity on his webpage, it does include involve going and doing a bit of typing. So it might be something that people also want to do afterwards, Anthony. I guess it's going to be fine if you're talking about it as a pre-activity, but it could be a post-activity as well, couldn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. The more contributions, the better.
Right. Okay. So what we're going to do now then is, as I say, slightly early, but I think that's absolutely fine. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Anthony, and Anthony is going to give us an activity, an artificial intelligence learning simulation model. And I've had a lot of conversations with Anthony, so I know I'm really excited about seeing what he's going to do with us today.
Fantastic. Please, let's see here now. I'm trying to look to see if I'm going to be able to keep the text chat. Doesn't look like I'm able to see the text chat while I'm sharing the screen. Can you see the screen right now?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay. But I'm not seeing the text chat. I was hoping that I'd be able to see the text chat as well. So if there were any questions or comments, but never mind, that's okay.
I will keep an eye on the text chat, Anthony, and I will flag up to you when there are questions. I'll wait.
Okay. Yeah, no worries, no worries. I'm used to Microsoft Teams where I can have both things on at the same time. Never mind. Okay, so this is the web link where you can see an activity that we've got that people can do now, or as you say at the end, where we ask the question, "What does knowledge mean to you?" Oh, hold on a second here. Ah, I see. Okay, so I can see the text chat by clicking on the top menu. And that down at the bottom is where you can enter your comments and post that, and then we can all take a look at that and get a kind of shared vocabulary, common language to be able to understand the perspectives of the different stakeholders that we're all in this event together with. But in the meantime, I'm going to put my slides up now, and if you can see this, give me a thumbs up or yes. In the text chat. And this is a good technique in order just to see how many people are active and how many people are paying attention and contributing. So thank you. I see that from Wendy, we've got yes, and from Iva, yes. And Isabel, brilliant. Thank you all so much for that. And, as a good technique, being able to say the people's, the names is also a kind of a nice personalized way of doing the webinar.
And
So,
we do have a grey box that's moving across the screen.
uh-oh, that might be the text chat, and I'm going to close that. How about now? Is it gone now?
That's gone now, yes.
Okay, all right. So, again, idiosyncrasies of using Zoom, I guess. Right. So, we're going to be taking a look at a model that I'm researching. And just as like with the last presenter, I'd be happy to put out to everyone an invitation to contact me if you're interested in taking a look at this model, trying it out with your group, applying for some research grants and funding. We'd love to be able to collaborate with any and all of you about this use of artificial intelligence in a simulation model. So what we've got here is my website, abasiel.uk/Adobe. And the reason for that is that I used to be an Adobe International Education leader. And so I've done quite a bit of work with them in the past as a blended learning consultant. So take your smartphone out. You can scan this. You can go to the web link and take a look at what we've got going there. So you can take a picture or screen grab, and you can have that for now or for a little bit later. But the reason that we're going to ask people to do this is very important, is that there's an activity that we're going to ask you all to be involved with on this page. So whatever device you have, if you have a smartphone, you can do this on the smartphone. laptop, desktop, whatever device, tablet, go to this page, and then what you're going to be able to see is, let's see here. You'll be able to see the information about the conference, but then you'll also see that the page is synchronizing with your device. All right, so that's what we're looking for. If you can go to that page now for us, that's fantastic. Okay, so in a moment, we're going to be doing this activity, which involves everyone contributing. But before we do that, what I'm going to ask people to do is just stand up for a moment, and I'm going to ask you just to take a few steps left and right, turn your body a little bit. Everybody, come on, let's go. Stand up. We've been sitting here for an hour. Let's get a little bit of blood moving and try to get your oxygen in your brain for this next activity. Okay. I hope some people have done that. I used to be a gymnastics coach in my previous life, and so I always try to build in a little bit of physical activity in the session. Right. So if you're at that page, hopefully you've all logged in now, and you're seeing the page. You'll notice that there are two buttons, a left arrow and a right arrow. All right. Now, you can do this on your phone by pressing on the phone. You've got a touch screen phone or a touch screen device with a tablet. You can physically touch the button with one hand. You're just using one hand and one finger. So left and right, and that's going to be controlling the activity that we're doing in a moment. Now, if you have a computer laptop or keyboard, you can actually use the left right arrows on your keyboard. Okay, so you have the choice: touch screen, touch the buttons, keyboard using the left or right arrows. All right, so get all that set up, get yourself ready, because we're going to be taking a look at this 4-stage model. The first part is the pretest. Now, in this type of what we call ipsative assessment, you're going to have the opportunity to identify the prior knowledge. What do people have coming into the experience? All right. So what we're not doing is doing a tabula rasa, blank slate approach that the students' minds are empty and we're going to fill them. Instead, we want to establish a common language, get people to contribute. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The simulation then, or role play activity, is next, where we're actually applying the knowledge rather than just talking about it. We're actually using it. We're doing it. Then after the simulation, arguably one of the most important parts is the debriefing. So you've gone through that experience, and now what have you taken away from it? What are the pros and cons? What lessons have been learned? And then following that, an evaluation of the event. So we're looking very much at knowledge, at learning, more as an event, a process, rather than a product or content. So doing a pre-test quiz. Well, yes, you can make the questions and then say, here are the learning outcomes. This is the knowledge. We want to find out what you're coming in with. But you can also do a Web 2.0 learner-generated approach. In this way, the students make a quiz question, pop it into the quiz tool, the online quiz tool that you're using, and then they have to identify which is the correct answer and link that to sources of information that will help them learn the answer to that particular question. So this way, the students are generating the knowledge. So now we go into a real world scenario, and this depends on your knowledge domain. This depends what your particular subject area is. In a previous talk I did, it was looking at healthcare practitioners. And so you see here, the images that I have are of healthcare practitioners actually going through a role play of a medical intervention. But the role play can be in any context, in any knowledge domain or subject area of your discipline. Next, we're going to have the debriefing part. Now, the debriefing part is very important because it's here where reflection on the entire process is taking place. And what does that mean? Well, as you can see in some of these images, what we're doing is we're either doing it in face-to-face or online or blended approach. And the design of the seating is important in this case. What we're hoping to do is encourage people to use a Socratic discussion circle. So rather than sitting in rows where the sage on the stage expert is sitting in the front and everyone else is being transmitted information to, what we're trying to do is to get a circle, a physical circle or a virtual circle. And if you take a look at my website, abasiel.uk, you can see a lot of the research that I've been doing about doing virtual Socratic discussion circles and using augmented reality for a 360 image. And so in this case, what we can do is we can also use artificial intelligence in this type of scenario. So an ideal debriefing is to have not just one person, but a couple people involved. So one person might be dealing with the subject skills and knowledge that we're hoping to verify through the learning simulation, but the other person, and particularly if it's in a healthcare situation where you have a triage and it's critical life or death scenario that they've been going through, there can also be that emotional, empathetic, caring part of the debriefing that you want to do. And another element of this is to use a digital twin. So if any of you have heard of digital twins, go ahead and in the text chat, go ahead and type in yes, and maybe put down what the situation is that you've used or heard about digital twins. In a moment, I'll show you where we did a workshop using digital twins. So the AI can actually create this other facilitator for the debriefing. Here we go. I just mentioned that workshop, so I'm going to play this 360 video of a workshop that we've done.
Really, how easy I got a little bit bored simple myself, that is to be honest.
So you can see here we have the people sitting in the circle, and we've used this augmented reality camera in order to be able to have the presenters who were created as digital avatars on the screen. So this is myself on the side, and then we're working with a company called Klaxon, which we'll have a link at the end of the talk. Hopefully, you'll all get a chance to contribute to some feedback as well. Moving on, then we come to the evaluation stage of this model. So you've got some set learning outcomes or skills or knowledge, capabilities that you wanted to be demonstrated and applied in that real world scenario. So how can we evaluate that? How can we identify and produce evidence in an assessment that would be able to show that student, that participant is capable of doing that? Well, again, here's where the AI comes in. You have a transcript from the video recording of that entire event, and you can use the AI to summarize and identify any of the key words for the learning outcomes. So going through the transcript will produce the evidence, and then you can link that into the time slot in the video to be able to have, say, an external examiner or a second marker see the video, and then to be able to verify that, yes, that student or that participant has demonstrated that skill and capability. So this is part of this ipsative assessment model that we can use, integrating artificial intelligence, blended learning simulations together in order to be able to have an assessment system which is going to be interactive, which is what this network is all about. So let's take a look now at the first interactive game. So I'm hoping that everyone now has their device set up. You can see the screen, my screen, but you also have the buttons. If you're still not sure, you can do a QR scan here to get the buttons. Otherwise, you can use the buttons on your laptop. What we're going to be doing here in a moment is we're going to be passing over the control to our server. So by logging into this page, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to control the runner. All right. So if you have done this already, if you've logged in, give me in the text chat. Okay. Have you logged in? All right. So if you've logged in, give me in the text chat a yes. Brilliant, Rachel. Thank you. All right. Vicky, well done. Joanna, Wendy, excellent. Excellent. All right. So we've got a good number of people contributing. Now, for the first intervention, you can only use one hand. So it's one hand, one finger. What you're going to be doing is pressing the right and left arrows. That makes the runner go. Everyone contributing makes the runner go faster. All right, here we go. One moment. Let me get this ready. And begin. Okay, the gun is off. Our runner is in the blue shorts. And come on, tap those fingers. Tap the keys. Get those arrows going. A little faster. Come on, a little faster. All right. We were fifth place at 15.04 seconds. Okay, so the summary of your contribution, you tapping the buttons now, you have created a time 15.04 seconds. Now, what does that mean? All right, well, this is, if we look at the race as an assessment, all right, this is the result of that assessment. You've come in fifth place out of this group, and you have a time of 15.04 seconds. All right. So we can assess that in a number of different ways, a little bit like we were talking about in the first presentation. We have different assessment models that we can look at. So we'll be taking a look at that in a moment, but we're going to give you another chance. But this time we're going to change the parameters a little bit. For the next race, race number 2, now instead of using one hand, we want you to use the buttons again on your keyboard or touch screen on my website. We want you to use 2 hands this time. So you're going to use your right hand and left hand. So you're tapping with the fingers, left and right, left and right, left and right. Okay? We're going to see if this intervention, this change in the learning event, is going to have any impact on the runner. Okay, so we are, let me get the text chat ready. Okay, ready for race 2. If you're ready for race 2, give me a thumbs up or a yes. How many people are ready to go this time? Roberta, thank you. Rachel, again, well done. Anybody else? Jim, okay, Jim, we need you. Get ready to press the buttons. Here we go. We're ready for the second race, the second intervention. And the gun is off. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, where have we fallen? We're going a little faster, though. It looks like we're fast. Keep going. Come on. Keep pressing those buttons. No. Keep pressing the buttons. Oh, right. Okay. Well done. Well done. And here we see. Oh, okay. Well done. All right. Give yourselves a hand. Okay. Nicely done. Looks like this time. Let's see our final results. Oh, this time we've come in first place. Ooh, just barely ahead of the person in lane 3 with a time of 13.78 seconds. So from our first event to the second event, we have gone faster. Right. Okay. Well done, everyone. Give yourself a hand on that. Let's take a look at this activity. What does this activity mean in terms of assessment? All right, well, if we are looking at assessment from an external, an outside criterion-based assessment, then we can take our times and we can compare that to those times. So, for example, Usain Bolt's world record is 9.58 seconds in 2009. We're not quite performing at a world record or even an Olympic record because we're working at doing 9.63 seconds for that. We can't do it. So then we have to look at, say, the course record. On this particular athletics course, the world record, the record is 9.9 seconds by Joe Bloggs in 2024. So if we're looking at the times that we did, we can use that external criterion as a measure. However, we can also do a norm referenced approach. In this case, what we're doing is we're going to be looking at our own personal records. So in the very first one we did, it was our first time ever, and we did a PB, a personal best. Now, a real world comparison that I use is with parkrun. Okay, have any of you done parkrun? Okay, so go ahead and type in the text chat if you've done parkrun before. Isabel has. Oh, okay, well done, Isabel. So you're familiar with this. Okay, Roberta, go and take a look at the parkrun website. It's great. Oh, and Mark did 10K. Okay, so he did 2 park runs because they're usually 5K. All right, Rachel's giving us thumbs up. Well done, Rachel. All right, so what does this mean? Well, if you're doing, say, a park run, you're not competing against the other people to see who's going to be first place. You're competing against yourself, so you're going for your personal best. In our case, when we did the race, we did a PB on the first one. That was our best one. But we are also looking at our place in relationship to that cohort or in that particular heat of the race. So we came in 5th place on our first attempt, but then by changing our learning, by having that intervention, doing a different technique of using 2 hands, we were able to improve our skills, our group knowledge here. We were able to go and go into first place and improve our individual time. All right. So when we're looking at this, what we can do is we can measure the impact. We can have data which is showing us the impact on that learning event, on that intervention, of shifting from going from the one hand, one finger tap approach to the two hand, two finger tap approach. So this is what we refer to as ipsative assessment, where we have that prior knowledge. We gauge what is the person coming into the experience and the learning event with, and then applying that into this role-playing scenario, our blended learning simulation, and then debriefing, talking about that, unpacking what the experience was in a cognitive and also emotional level, and then being able to record, capture that using artificial intelligence tools in order to be able to apply that to our model. Okay, so, well, we're hoping that people enjoyed this exercise and this look at different assessment models. There's a couple things that we're going to ask you to do. If you haven't yet gone to the abasel.uk/augmented reality website, and that link will take you there for the QR code, pop in for us. What is your understanding of knowledge? What is your point of view about knowledge? If we had more contributors in the beginning, I would share that all with you so that we could get a combined kind of profile of the audience, of the group of learners. But we can do this as a post-event activity as well. And just as with the first exercise, we had an opportunity to work with Miro, where you had an interactive board. You can go to this Klaxon website, europa.klaxon.com/join/YJRTAE5, or again, use the QR code in the bottom right. And there you have an opportunity to do a little survey and mind map exercise as a post activity. What I try to do with my events is not just focus on the specific activity like the race that we did, but we do a PAP, P-A-P, a pre, at, and post activity. So that way what we're doing is we're getting some common knowledge, some shared understanding in the beginning. We do the event, have a reflection, and then be able to do a post activity as well. I hope you found this interesting. My contact information is here. I've already sent my PDF version of the slides in the text chat, as well as to the host, the organizers. Please do contact me if you're interested in collaborating. I'd be very happy to answer any questions now or to have a web video chat in the future. So I'll stop my sharing at this point. And I hope you found that interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. That was fun. So we're very nearly out of time. That's us at 11:25. So what I'm going to do, I've shared the link in chat a couple of times for our feedback form. I'm just sharing it again. So I would encourage all of you to fill out the feedback form. Let us know what you thought of the session, and importantly, then you will be able to get your attendees badge in the fullness of time. Because Isabel actually will go and manually put them all in. If there are any last questions in the last couple of minutes for Priyank, for Mark, or for Anthony, then please feel very free to stick them into chat, take the mic, or anything you like.
Yep, I'm happy to answer any questions either now or later on if people have. By the way, thank you for those of you who are tapping away. Well done.
And I'm going to stop recording now, if I can work out where it is recording.